All righty. We'll see who's the early attenders. Rachel is one of the early attenders. We love it. Love it. Love it. Welcome, everybody. Felix, got a quote from you, buddy. I think Felix has got a quote that I saw in the people that said stuff. All right. So for those that are here early, here we go. You ready for this, Harold? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is the icebreaker of the day. So I'm in Maryland. So let us know where you're from. That's the first thing. Where are you from? And what are you doing tomorrow night? And if anybody knows what I'm doing tomorrow night, I'm going to send them a Starbucks gift card, and it's less than $25. So nobody goes to the pokey. So a Starbucks gift card, if you know what I'm doing tomorrow night, and the question is, what are you doing tomorrow night? And who is your favorite artist? Your favorite singer or favorite artist? And then the other thing I got, and you can put that in the chat. So anybody guess it? So where are you from? I'm from Woodstock, Maryland. Bet you a lot of folks didn't even know that existed. Let me put that in here. So you got to put your stuff in there too, Harold. Everybody goes. And my favorite artist is, I'm not going to tell you who my favorite artist is because that's what I'm doing tomorrow night. So I'm in Maryland. Anybody else in Maryland? Going to Denver, Colorado. You got Rolling Meadows, Illinois. Love it. And who's your favorite singer or artist or performer? So Oklahoma, Dallas by way of Oklahoma City. All righty. Favorite, Nikki Costa. I don't know who that is. And Harold's from Inverness. Is that how you say it? Inverness? Is that how you say it?
Inverness.
Prince. I love it. Faylene is Prince. Anybody got a guess as to who I'm going to see tomorrow night? Anybody got a guess for me? Melbourne, Florida. Jeff is correct. I am going to see the boss. And unfortunately, I can't see this character because he died a few years ago, but I am going to see the boss. I'm going to see this character's cousin. And the other thing that I'm going to say, so that's great. So who, here you go, Jeff. You should be jealous. I actually saw him 2 weeks ago, so I am absolutely addicted. He was in DC last week. It was last week. So I'll be seeing him. So Elton John, love it. Faylene likes Elton John. We love that. So where are you from? And who's your favorite artist? And yes, you are correct. I am going to be seeing, I got to get Jeff Lanham's information because apparently I owe him a Starbucks card. So there you go. I can't even spell Springsteen right. I'm not a real fan. All right, there you go. Can't help that. All right, so where are you from and who's your favorite artist? We just revealed that I'm going to see Springsteen. And while we're waiting for everybody else, is anybody else going to be in DC next? Not this, 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks. So I am going to be hanging out with Sam Radar, folks, and this guy, Tom Cruise. You can come get your picture taken with Tom Cruise at the Federal Business Council's event for the Government Procurement Conference. If you're going to go, let me know. We'll get you a VIP ticket. Again, less than $25, so you don't have to go to the pokey. All right, we'll get started in just a minute. Favorite artist, Michael Jackson, love it. Marjorie, very, very. The further away we get from his death, the crazier it is to think about the level of talent that guy has, right? For Michael Jackson, right? So there you go. So yeah, where you from and who's your favorite artist? All right, we got thumbs up all over the place, apparently. And we'll get cooking in just a minute. We'll introduce you to these guys. We will be talking about Salesforce best practices and connected applications in just a minute. I promise, Kanan. Promise. That's what we'll get to. So there you go. So if you're going to be at the GPC event, let us know. That is on the 19th of April. You're not coming in, are you, Harold? You're not coming in for that, are you?
No.
Okay. I know there's a bunch of folks that are coming in, but we'll be seeing everybody there. So where are you from and your favorite artist? We have Michael Jackson. We have Springsteen, who's me. Elton John. From Melbourne, Florida, we got Prince. Nikki Costa. I don't know Nikki Costa, Felix. I don't know that one. I guess got to be brought up to speed on that. So we will go ahead and we welcome everybody. Glad you're all here today. We are now going to start this bad boy now that we're 2 minutes in. Everybody else that comes in, we'll make sure you get updated as they come in. We are recording this for everybody. We want to welcome all the folks. This is truly an interagency briefing. We had, I think, 70 or 80 people that registered for this, so we'll see how many make it. Some folks just wait along for the recording because, like I said, it's being recorded. But we do have a whole bunch. I never knew that there was CHIRP, Center for Health, Equity, Research, and Promotion. When they were looking for this, it's also apparently the Marijuana Growers Association or something. Just saying, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, we welcome everybody that's here. Quick disclaimer, you're not going to believe this, Harold, but it's not endorsed by GSA or any other agency. And this is so everybody can participate because it's for informational purposes only. And your participation as government personnel is not an indication or endorsement to purchase from any vendor, including Divine, who happens to be sponsoring this event. We love participation and it's easy to do. We do expect a bunch of folks. So if you can raise your hand, if you'd like to, we love dialogue, love the dialogue. Or if you have questions and answers, if you have anything that you have any question about, or you want to make a comment about it, you can throw that in the Q&A. In the chat, however, I am going to put for everyone the handouts of this presentation. We have the presentation. We have some of the other documentation that's coming along with that. So if you'd like to communicate with us, please feel free. And David Greenberg says artist is Willie Colin. Love it, David. I don't know who that is either, man. So and so while we're throwing that stuff in, you can throw all those types of comments into the chat. We love to see it about where you're from and who your favorite artist is. And we are going to have polls of why in the world are you here? Are you on the hot seat for implementing Salesforce in your agency? You're trying to get your head around Salesforce so that you can do something. You want to be part of the dialogue, and you can pick as many as you want, by the way, or your boss made you come, just saying. And then if you've ever been to a briefing before with GovBrief, are you seeing this, guys? All right, there you go. I just want to make sure everybody's seeing it. Welcome back. If you've been here before, if you haven't been here before, we love having new people, don't we, Harold? We love it.
Very much, very much.
So fantastic. While you're asking that, and we did ask this on the way in of what would make this the best briefing ever. So you can put this in the chat too. If there's something that you would really like us to be able to pay attention to, or just make this great for you, just let us know. We'll do our best to accommodate. So here it is. Best briefing ever. Schnell from VA says actionable tools will be provided. I'm not sure we have, I know we have actionable items, right, Hanan? Okay, Kanan, right? That's when I combine Harold and Kanan, you get a Hanan. So there you go. Victor from DHS says connectors with Power Apps and MS Online ecosystem. We're going to talk a little bit about that, maybe?
Yes, we are.
All right, fantastic. And Danica and Felix, see, I told you, Felix, I was going to quote you. This is going to be the best briefing ever if they learn anything, just one thing, and they're going to be happy. All right. And Rachel from the VA says, if it's not during the SpaceX launch of the Super Heavy. Rachel, great news. We checked with the FAA today, and we know for a fact that the first earliest possible launch is on the 4/10. So you're in the clear. You can stick for the whole hour if you want to, because SpaceX is not going up until next week. All right, so there you go. We did that one, best briefing ever for Rachel. And David from Treasury says, my audio works. Is David here? Is your audio working? Because if it is, it's the best briefing ever for David. So James says from CDC, says, Salesforce rebranded to take the word sales out of their name. So everybody knows that we did attempt this. So as soon as we did this, we reached out to Salesforce. We said, and James said from CDC, we want to remove this. And we ran into a problem. You know what the problem was, Harold? It became the force, and Yoda came right out and said, no, can't do it. All right. So Michael says, if we can identify program changes and to allow coaches to workload manage better, we will be talking about flow diagrams and being able to pull that kind of stuff together, right, Kanan?
Yes.
Fantastic. I love it. All right,
Can you turn on Matt's camera?
Can I turn on Matt's camera? I can, as a matter of fact. I can turn on Matt's camera.
Okay,
I can say yes, make you a co-host. There you go. All right, so I'm gonna end this poll in 3, 2, 1, and boom. All right, so here's what we got, guys. Got a couple folks on the hot seat. Some of them are, a lot of folks are trying to get their head around it. It can be a complicated program, can it, Kanan?
Oh, yes, as long as, but it gets pretty easy once you learn about it.
Yep. All right, so awesome. We appreciate you guys doing that, and we will keep it cooking. So some of the things that they would like us to address, one is the 508 compliance obstacles. I'm not sure what that would be. Certainly there's issues, and I know you guys aren't playing in the 508 compliance game, but I understand that a little bit, and we may want to take that one offline, Sean, because there's probably a way to be able to provide you some information of being able to test so that you can beat it. Michael from the VA, contact cards being moved and interactive. So this goes to some of that flow. Is that right, Kanan?
Yeah, it definitely is a use case for some of the things that we're going to be talking about.
Sweet. Brian from HHS, new no code, and that means you don't have to code, right? That's actually coming out as something that helps with the coding. Is that what I'm saying?
Absolutely. You can count the number of times I'm going to say no code.
All right, fantastic. That's it. Then that's the next contest. I'm not going to have the answer to that because I'm not going to be counting, but you guys can count. So the other one from CDC, define the line between SalesForce goes from SaaS to PaaS. That's an interesting one. I'm really interested to hear that one. If you have insight on that one, Kanan, about that.
I don't know that it fits into the context of this, but I'm happy to discuss with James on some of the PaaS options that are becoming available, although SalesForce is known as a SaaS application.
Yep, love it. And Sharon from CMS, why does Salesforce application only load and operate Microsoft Edge? Great question. And not Google Chrome. I don't know the answer to that either. And then Alvin from USAID, vetting contractors. If that's the Alvin I think it is, I know why he's asking that question. And I'll leave that alone. So there you go. So, but yeah, you definitely want to have good contractors, right? Everybody here wants good contractors. So real quick, we're gonna give you some introductions to these guys here, who they are and what they're doing. Then we'll get right into the meat and potatoes of this for the government digital transformation trends, Salesforce architectures, why we're here, for the best practices. We'll talk about that. Anytime you want, throw something in the Q&A. We'll do our best to be able to make sure we hit it. I think there was a Q in there at one point that was answered apparently. Oh, that was Ariana saying she's from Somerville, South Carolina. Fantastic. And just throw it in there, and we'll do our best to watch the chat as well, just in case. And then continuing the conversation, we'll get you guys out of here within the next 50 minutes. So the next question is, where are you guys in your Salesforce integration? So this will give us an idea of where you are. And if you're not in that process, you can let us know. But pre-planning, planning, 25, 50, 75, complete, or you have multiples. You can choose as many as you want. And would you like to discuss a specific implementation? We'll make sure, and we can also do that right here. We can unmutify you to do that. So while they're filling that out, Harold, we have Harold here. He is the president and CEO of Divine, and we appreciate you being here. Tell us a little bit. No, we know you're in Illinois, right? Whereabouts in Illinois?
Our office is in Hoffman Estates, that I'm in Inverness right now. But go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no doubt. So when did you start Divine?
So we've been in business from 2002. And the Salesforce practice has been on for over 7 years now.
Fantastic. And I know that you have a GSA contract too, right?
That's right. And we are also SBA 8A certified.
Yep.
We are state of Illinois, MBE, and so on.
Yep. And I really appreciate that. Sorry about that interruption there. And so, yeah, you started in 2002. You're in Illinois, 8A, got your GSA contract. And I love that you're doing these to be able to help folks understand some of the fundamentals, as well as you get into some details too, right? You have some other specialties beyond Salesforce. We've also done what was the other briefing that we did? We did Chat GPT, right?
We did one on ZTA, Zero Trust Architecture, cybersecurity.
Yeah.
We did one on democratization of artificial intelligence. So if you look at the areas where we specialize, enterprise architecture is a kind of a core discipline. It's kind of envelope discipline that really covers other areas. So we specialize, we have enterprise architecture discipline in the company, and then we have practice in SalesForce, a practice that's focused on Microsoft. Then we do analytics, which comes even as part of the Microsoft practice. And then we have cybersecurity governance as a practice. So
Sweet.
overall, we take this approach that when we are in a position to really be involved with the client in a deep manner, we like to deliver value through strategy alignment, bringing leadership in technology vision, ensuring that the designs are holistic. So bring leadership in holistic design, and also taking care of excellence in delivery.
Absolutely. We know that there's some folks, Alvin being one, that had some issues with that. So we appreciate that. And we'll give some more about that at the end.
Sure.
To be able to get in touch with you. All right, Kanan, let's get to it. We want to talk about the future of digital service. What in the world does that mean to you?
Thanks, Dave, and good afternoon to everybody. Looking at the poll, interesting actually, about 50% are in pre-planning. And I was really hoping that nobody would say they are complete, because then there's nothing for me to say.
Well, if there's one thing we know, if they picked that, they were lying.
Yeah. Just want to get started. When I mean connected applications, for those of you who've been using Salesforce, Salesforce has a lot of features right out of the box, works well within itself. By connected applications, what we mean is the need for Salesforce to interact with other applications in your ecosystem. That's what we are trying to focus on here today. As we were starting to look at it, one of the things that popped out was a report from Salesforce. This is a 2022 report that covered about 30,000 respondents from North America, Latin America, Europe, and Asia Pacific, carried out over a period of a year and a half. And the focus of the report, the survey that preceded the report, was to figure out the trends that are shaping the future of government digital transformation initiatives. And not surprisingly, because of the recent pandemic that we have, even though we are past the pandemic, trust is something that everybody expects a lot more from the government. When I deal with the government, 87% of them basically believe that as times change, trust is becoming more and more important. I should be able to believe that my government is able to provide the services that I'm looking for. And the trend towards digital engagement rather than, in fact, in-person engagements is increasing quite a bit. Finally, I just wanted to say that the panelists for this, the respondents here, are from all these countries, and many of them are not related to Salesforce. So it's a generic survey that kind of transcends the kind of profiles. And most of them, 82% of them, believe that the government is not actually paying enough attention to the way they engage with them. That's a finding, that's a perception, whether it's reality or not, but that is a perception that many of them have. And as you go through that report, and by the way, they're sharing this report with you as part of the package.
That's in the handouts, by the way. If you just click it, you don't have to download it now, but you can, we'll make sure you get a copy of it as well, but you can click it right now if you want to.
The most interesting thing is these are, remember, these are not employees, government employees, but these are, users of the services and people who influence or study the users. They actually talk about the investment in employee experience and the way it actually affects or impacts customer experience, actually. Giving your employees critical data insights, being able to look at data from a variety of sources, some within Salesforce, some with outside, and giving them the ability to take actions right there in that single screen. And I don't care whether it is in fact something that is happening within Salesforce, or it triggers off some action in an SAP or an Oracle applications that you have. that's something that is very important because it translates into much better customer experience. And like I said, the report is between early 2021 and middle of 2022. Smack in the middle of it, sometime in the December, we also found that there's a presidential executive order that pretty much talks about trust. It talks about service delivery. I don't know, Dave, whether you want to add anything at this point.
Oh, I just know that's a broad, we've talked about this subject in multiple aspects between customer experience, user experience, digital experience. We put that in as part of the handouts as well. If you're not familiar with 14058, you can read more about it. But it is definitely one of the hot buttons for doesn't matter which side, which administration. It's actually crosses all the bounds. Crazy as that sounds these days, but yeah, it is definitely across that. To rebuild trust and make sure trust is there, very important, and that experience is part of that. And that gets us to architects and developers of SalesForce solutions, kind of like what you guys do. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, and I want to, this is about architecture, therefore some of it is necessarily technical, but I am going to try and stay away from getting too deep into technology.
That would be great because there's people here that you'll put in a coma.
And yeah, some of you are program managers and you don't care about actually the weeds, but hopefully what we give you today is something that you can take to, you can discuss with your team, and you would in fact have some intelligent conversations about what Salesforce can do and cannot do.
Love it.
But if you look at it, and this is not copyrighted by me, this is not original. Down below you will see Salesforce well architected. This is an initiative that actually Salesforce came up with recently, and it talks about how do you develop applications that are healthy, applications that are trusted, which means they are secure, they are compliant, they are reliable. How do you develop applications that are simple from a user perspective, simple from a developer perspective in terms of being able to maintain it, extend it, and so on. Likewise, if you're a user, you would love it actually. There are certain things that are automated. Some of them may be standard things that several people want even outside your organization. Some of it could in fact be very specific to you. In my organization, in my agency, this is something that I'm doing 15 times a day. Boy, can you actually save me 1 minute for each of those 15 stages? Likewise, engaging, right? Give me what I need and give it to me in the right place, right? So that's an essential characteristic of a good architecture. Then moving to the rightmost, you want whatever solutions you develop to be resilient in the sense that as your business context changes, it either in fact already knows and then is able to adapt to it, or it is easy to make changes in response to business changes that you have, the context changes that you have. And finally, this is huge actually, composable. Composable basically means that you develop components that can be used. So when you're trying to build a new solution, when you're trying to address something that one of your users want, it should be possible for you to go and say, what do I have already? What have I developed already? And can I, in fact, put together something that's a combination of those things instead of starting from scratch, reinventing it? So those are the essential characteristics of the architecture that we are going to talk about. But today, in particular, keeping with the connected applications topic, we are going to talk about two of the things. How do you build user experiences with, in fact, no code and low code options? And what is happening in the Salesforce world that you should be aware of, what has happened in the recent releases and what is happening in the future. That's one of the things we've talked about. The second is integration. If you need to exchange data between Salesforce and other applications, you may send some data. You may want some data to be available to your users from other applications, or it may be both ways. We'll talk a little bit about those two things today.
Yep. And we have a bunch of folks that are in the middle of multiple integrations, which means they're making Salesforce talk to multiple different systems, right?
Yeah.
So this is great. And we also, so it's not just, let me make sure I heard what you said, Kanan, and that is, it's not just about like the customer experience out facing, it's the user experience that's you are the customer and your employees are the customer that are putting these things together. It's not necessarily outward facing, but inward facing.
That's perfect, Dave, actually. So from the viewpoint of some of the things we are discussing here, your employees are your customers. We're not talking about the government's customers, but we're actually talking about your employees and how you can make their life easier. As a result of which, of course, your customer will be happy to.
Yep.
So I assume most of you have looked at SalesForce. So when you look at SalesForce, when you look at user experience, what are some of the things that kind of pop out for you? Page layout, right? The first time somebody told you about SalesForce, they will show you, here is an account page. This is how it looks like. It has a list of contacts. You can actually add notes to it. You can add files to it and things like that. So page layout is in fact something that everybody experiences day in and day out in SalesForce. That's one of the UX. I'll go down to approval processes. Some of you may have implemented approval processes. This is really where it's a no-code solution for if you have a business process that involves multiple people and they need to collaborate. I need to put in some information, then I pass it on to somebody for approval or to add more information. And eventually the entire thing is either approved or rejected, etc. Right? Approval processes is something that's a very familiar Salesforce feature that many organizations that I know of make use of. And finally, in the middle, Aura is something, if you're not familiar with it, you've all been using it as lightning experience in Salesforce. Something that started in the middle of 2015 or so, right after Salesforce went mobile friendly. And it brought a revolution in terms of the interface. We moved away from pretty text looking interfaces to graphic looking interfaces in Aura. So these are things I hope you're familiar with all of them. But let's look at what is happening. If you look at the last 3-4 releases, and if you look ahead for the next 2-3 releases, there's absolutely nothing that is changing with those options that you're very familiar with. They're not going away, they are there, but they're kind of becoming stale because Salesforce is not making improvements to them. And why are they not making improvements to them? It's because, in fact, of some of the newer elements that are coming. So we'll go through each of them. Dynamic form is, in fact, look at it as a page layout on steroids. It actually is able to do a lot more things. It's able to do pretty much everything that you were able to do with page layouts, but it is able to do a lot more things. And it actually kind of reacts. It reacts to, am I looking at a prospect or am I looking at a customer? Am I looking at a contact who's a decision maker or am I looking at a contact who is in fact a business user? It allows you to actually show the kind of information that you want to see depending upon the data that is coming. So it's a very powerful feature. If you have not seen it, I think we are going to show a few things there. You would be surprised. I'm sure you'll like what you see. Similarly, flow is something that has taken the Salesforce world by storm again over the last 1 year. I would say it has been around a little longer, but over the last 1 year, there's a new breed of people actually who call themselves Flownatics. So they kind of swear.
What do they call themselves?
Flownatics.
Flownatics?
Uh-huh. I don't know the origin of the word. It's definitely not from Flownatics. Something else.
It would be a fanatic.
Fanatic.
Fanatic. Right. That's a flownatic. I had never heard that before. That's funny.
And I can tell you, I am a hardcore developer, and I have become a flow enthusiast.
That'd be a flownatic then. You're
I am a flownatic, yes.
There you go. You're nut for it. I love it.
It's a nice tool, drag and drop, click and configure kind of a tool that administrators can actually use to accomplish things that previously required developers. And for developers, in fact, actually, it has a lot of things in there that allow you to do things much more efficiently. You're able to please your customers by actually responding to changes much faster. And I'm sure if you're a developer, you don't have to develop test classes and worry about code coverage when it comes to flows. So flows is a great thing. Again, we have something that we're going to show for you. The flow orchestrator is kind of a next generation approval process. Now that we have great flows, flow orchestrator is a way by which if there is a business process that involves 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, and each of them have flows to help them actually do whatever they want to do, the flow orchestrator kind of brings them all together. Dave needs to do something, and then once he's done, Karan has to pick it up, and then in fact, Harold is finally taking the decision. The flow orchestrator is a tool. Again, approval processes are not going away. But in future, if you're doing something with approval, something like approval processes, take a hard look at the flow orchestrator It's ready for prime time. It's working beautifully. And the final one I want to talk about, Lightning Web Component, or we'll call it LWC in the rest of the presentation. That's what you will see in the web most of the time. That's kind of a replacement for Aura. Aura now has become 8 years old. Salesforce has decided it's time to move on. Lightning Web Component is a Web 2.0 based, much leaner, much more efficient framework. So the point is, the familiar options that you have, they are there. But if you're doing anything new, please take a look at these seriously, because they are actually evolving rapidly.
Love it. That is awesome. Good overview for that. So the next question that we have, and we're going to switch off here, and you're going to actually show us some of these things and walk through the dynamic forms and flows. But let's find out from everybody if they even, oh, that's not the right one. Sorry. Launched the wrong one. Let's go back. Come on, Dave. You know what you're doing sometimes. Where are we with screens and flows? There we go. This is the right one. All right. So are you familiar? Are you using dynamic forms and screen flows? Never heard of it? Yes, a little. Use them regularly, or you're a systems architect and you make all this stuff work. And let's see where they are in this one. And whether or not you'd like a deeper dive, because that's one of the things we can do. We're gonna show you some things. Not gonna be a deep dive here, but we will make sure you get some today. So let's see. Never heard. A lot of people never heard of it, Kanan. I like that. And a few are using it just regularly. All right, just a couple of folks. All right. So you're gonna take over now, right?
Yes.
And show us and walk through the dynamic while they're answering that question. You go ahead and take over. Let's see if this works. There it is. There you go. Love it when technology works, Kanan. Love it. All right. So
okay. Yeah, I mean, I like the whole results. 13 of them I've never heard of it. Maybe I've used it, I just want to be this thing. They just didn't know. Is
it possible that they may be seeing results from it but somebody else is doing it for them?
Sometimes it's just the geeks found out this word, but yeah, we use it.
Yep. Make sure you're leaning in on your microphone, because something just happened on there.
Okay. Right. Is it better now?
It is better now.
Okay.
Love it.
So I hope you're able to see my screen. What you're seeing is an account page. An account page. If you're a regular user of Salesforce, you see it all the time. You have, in fact, a highlights panel that kind of tells you some high-level idea about what the account is all about. Then you have all seen this details page that tells you the specific fields. You could go in and then edit it, etc. Up to now, it looks exactly like a page layout that you have seen for an account page. So now let's look at this and then take a look at some of the other things that you may not see. Look at this tab, addresses. This is a custom tab that we have created because, in fact, you want easy access to the billing and the shipping addresses. You don't want to be going through the details tab and then scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. But instead, some information you want them to be at your fingertips. So we just created a tab for it. And then we are able to say, whatever is information, whatever is important for you, you can actually put it on this tab. Then I'm going to move to the right. Look at this. This is very similar to if some of you have used this account hierarchy. It's very similar to this. But this actually happens to be, it happens to be a Lightning Web component that is embedded right in there. Remember, I talked about Lightning Web component the past slide. So what it does is, if you have some pretty custom thing that you have developed that is related to an account, it is possible for you to actually make that into a Lightning Web component and simply embed it in the page. So right here, I don't have to switch contacts. I don't have to go to another page. I don't have to go to another application. In fact, this might even give something from your SAP system that it may be displaying here. So that's the other thing that the dynamic form is capable of.
Hey, Kanan, can I ask a real quick question? So are we seeing like hierarchies being displayed here that can be customized? Is that what I'm seeing?
So one example is a hierarchy. It could very well be that, let's say that this account has a number of orders and orders are in your ERP system. You can actually display the orders right here.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Um,
And it's all customizable. So some of this stuff you're talking about is like business oriented, but agencies, they'll use this based on exactly what the agencies require to be able to see, and it can cross-reference back into a separate slot without having to change your view. It automatically populates. Is that what I just heard?
that's what it is.
Uh-oh.
Now we talked about critical data insights. One of the key things for data insights is bring all the relevant information together. Salesforce does a pretty good job of out of the box, but your specific scenario may require other things to be brought in, and that's what this one does.
Fantastic.
I will just, and we talked about dynamic, right? What is dynamic about it? I'm just going to switch to another account, which is really Acme. It's a child account. This is the corporate headquarters, and this is a location. And so let's look at, in fact, the child account page. What are we doing? Underneath the address, you see that the headquarters location addresses are also coming right there. Likewise, while I see my contacts here, which are right there in the location, within that page, I'm able to see the contact from the parent as well. Right. So this is an example of dynamism, right? It's kind of reacting to data that is there and then showing you different things depending upon the data that is coming in. So in this example, headquarters has a certain way of showing data, whereas the locations underneath that has another way of showing the same data. Now let me switch attention to actions that you can take. So look at here, actually, maybe you just have a lunch and learn, and then you want to send Grubhub cards to contacts with one of your accounts. So what you see here is, if I come here and then click next, it comes back, in fact, and shows me saying, hey, you want to send Grubhub cards. What kind of users do you want to send Grubhub cards to? So I'm able to actually say, I want to look at decision makers here. I also want to make influence here. Those are the kind of people I want to involve in my lunch and learn, and I can hit next. It then comes and gives me a list of people in there. I can select whoever I want to select. And then I can also specify that I want to send $100 Grubhub card to Amos there. When you do this, flows, now what you saw is the first example of a flow. It's a screen flow that allows you right within your account page, allows you to do all that interaction, and flow is able to integrate with, for example, Grubhub. Therefore, you can imagine right within the flow, when I hit finish, it has already called Grubhub and has placed an order for the contact. We already know the address, we know the email address. We have made use of all of those things and simply, in fact, accomplished whatever we wanted by using this flow. And this flow now is part of the dynamic form that we have. And therefore, I'm able to do all those things without leaving my account. How do you like that, Dave?
I like it. I think when you start looking at how flexible it is, how did you get here though? So if you're programming this or you're putting this in, is it coming from programmers, or is this one of the no code, low code pieces?
Great question. It's a no code solution. It's not meant for business users, but it is something that administrators can actually configure. All that they are doing is an administrator again, developed this flow called send Grubhub cards, and they are able to say, I want to slot it right into in the account page. And when this flow is called, it already knows which account it is in, and therefore it's able to bring the contact from that.
I'd love to hear from some other folks of what they see and being able to use this in their agency, and how this like aligns with what they're doing today. Because I think there's a lot of flexibility here. And I'm not a programmer. I don't play one on TV either. I need the drag and drop stuff to make things work for me.
And I did one of the participants actually said, I want to know what are some no code or low code options, what is there now, and what is coming in the future. And this is something, I just wanted to show this because I just love it so much.
All right.
I just love it so much, right? So let me show you one other flow, a variant of the flow that we just now had. and see how it works. You saw that, the previous one, the first screen was asking for roles. The second screen was telling you who the contacts have been selected. You created an amount. So you're going through 3 or 4 screens, actually. Now, I saw this for the first time last month in Trailhead DX, and I felt like going on my knees and thanking God. This is what they call as reactive components. This is something that
Kanan, your mic is cutting out. You're gonna need to.
Oh, my mic is cutting off. Is it better now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I think I just looked out from that. So what this one is, a new feature in Flow that is kind of in beta today, and over the next 2 releases are getting some significant upgrades. It's basically, in fact, let me show you what happens, right? It's the same thing, but I'm just saying this is meant for gift cards that I'm sending. I could go and then select John and Jeff here. You can see, and for some of you, you might have seen this in other screens, but I bet you haven't seen it in SalesForce, a non-customized version of SalesForce, not something that a developer developed. As I selected those contacts, you see that in fact, those contacts are also moved here. Then I go in and then say, I make a decision on that I want to send $100 cards to them. It also tells me a total amount is 200. I've chosen a very simple example, right? The requirements are not complex here. But the whole idea is that you are able to do reactive components, which means the total amount is able to react to changes in amount. The selected contacts is able to react to the list of contacts that you have and who you select and who do not select. This is huge because what we used to develop with Aura or will be developing with LWC. Instead of that, you can actually do it in Flow itself. Yeah. Did you lose me again?
Yeah, you're cutting out, and it's not just your audio. It looks like you got a little bit of an internet thing going on too.
Okay.
Technology. Gotta love the technology.
Yeah, but I want to emphasize this is actually an example of what is known as a reactive component. It's the ability to build together user interfaces right there within Salesforce with low code, no code oftentimes, that allows you to actually build screens that are a lot more powerful. As you make changes in one portion, it actually is reflected in the other portion as well. Brand new feature. We got a beta version of it this release, the spring release, and that's what you're seeing here. In Trailhead, actually, I got to see a version that they ran off the Salesforce's sandboxes, test environments, and that actually has several features. So if you're not familiar with that, please take a look at it because this is a replacement for building custom user experience and a lot more easier to manage, maintain, etc., etc. Awesome. And I don't want to go into too much of detail, but a Flow, the way you build it looks like this. It's in fact a pretty interactive tool. You actually have you drag and drop elements, and then you can actually click on it, and then you can make changes to what you're saying there and things like that. So the Flow is a very, very easy to use. A lot of administrators are getting used to it. Developers also, for certain things, actually, they find the Flow as an alternative to actually doing custom development with Apex or Lightning Web Components.
Yeah, I always like the Flow because it visualizes it for me. I can't read the matrix like you do, Kanan. So I got to see it like laid out real simple so that I can pull things around and make things work.
So for example, if I want to add a new screen, all I do is click here and then say I want a screen here. And then you can go about actually adding, saying I want an address here. I want to accept the address from the user. Things like that, the Flow is a click and drag and drop and a click and configure kind of a tool. Is that what you wanted, Dave?
Yeah, anything that makes it easy that I don't have to think about coding or asking somebody to code is good for me. That's just me. They probably have I'm a semi-propeller head, not a complete propeller head like some of the people here. And that's a term of endearment in case you're not familiar with that term.
Okay. Yeah, that's that's how I wanted. Dynamic forms and flows are great and things that you should be using for user interface options. And I will now hand back control to you, Dave.
Love it. Well, that's fantastic. I appreciate it. And it takes a lot of guts for everybody for somebody to do something live, right? Anytime we switch things on and off and you start seeing stuff live, man, you never know what's going to blow up. PowerPoints are bad enough, right? So let's continue. So we're talking about dynamic forms, and you showed some of these actually just then, right?
This is just a recap of what we saw, right?
Right
Use
on.
dynamic form, but when it comes to, for example, account or contact or this thing, you want to build a page for it, use a dynamic form, and then you can make that page very interesting by using the visibility. We saw, in fact, actually you're able to see headquarter information in locations, or you can embed flows and lightning web components. Makes it great. One place that you can do a lot of things. So dynamic form is a great thing. Flow, becoming better and better. Look at the last 3, 4. If you search for release notes, you will see flows several times. You look at the roadmap, you see flows again and again. What can it do? It has the screen element that allows you to build good, rich user interfaces and reactive screen components that are coming. It's not at prime time, like I showed you that example, but I really had to say, let me find out some requirements that would fit what is available. But what is coming in the next couple of releases makes it very, very powerful. And Flow becomes a very good vehicle for integration as well. If you want to make calls, API calls to another application, Flow is supporting it now. The MuleSoft, MuleSoft was acquired by SalesForce, and it's a very good middleware option for you, an enterprise service bus option for you. MuleSoft connectors, again, are becoming available in Flow. Slack connectors are becoming available in Flow. So how do you bring various things together? Flow, again, is actually a very, very useful tool.
Now, so we talked about the user experience earlier and the importance of being able to improve that. And that's what's coming from. We want to know what those guidelines are. What is the best practice for this?
Yeah. So I talked about it, right? I talked about well-architected framework and what it actually helps you with. It's knowledge gained by several experts who have actually been implementing Salesforce solutions across the globe. So when you look at the well-architected, so here are some decision guidelines. I am going to build a UX. I'm going to build a user experience. What are the things I should do? The first thing I would look at is, will dynamic forms do the trick? And dynamic forms does the trick if, in fact, your starting point is an account or a contact or an opportunity or a case or a permit, right? Then build a dynamic form around it, and you can embellish it with the flows and the components that we show and things like that. That's your first choice. You can move to the next one, Dave. The second from a user experience, this thing is flow. Like I said, becoming better and better. It is possible for you to do a lot of things. For example, if you want to send a notification, if you want to send an email, if you want to create a task, those are all out-of-the-box actions in Flow. So Flow is user interface, but a lot more. It allows you to automate things. It allows you to guide users. If you have something long, it allows you to break it up into multiple screens and get them to, in fact, focus on what they need to focus in the right order. So Flow is the second option that you should take. Dynamic Forms is completely no code. Flow kind of borders between low code and no code. Administrators can do it, but developers also can come in and then actually use the flows instead of doing development with an Apex or a Lightning Web component and things like that. And finally, of course, for the people here who are pro developers, we still have a role to play. When you want to develop customized UX, you use Lightning Web components. More importantly, remember, flows actually can use Lightning Web components. Dynamic forms can use Lightning Web components. Therefore, the future would be, in an organization, you would have a set of people whose responsibility it is to develop Lightning Web components that can be used in dynamic forms, can be used in flows, can be used in multiple places. Remember, composable architecture is one of the things that we said is important. That's what LWCs can do for you.
So now there's a question about platforms earlier. So I have the next poll has to deal, you kind of saw it before because I actually have to relaunch this poll. So are you using platform events? I don't even know what these are. A lot of folks won't know what these are. But if you are using them, we'd love to hear about that as well. If you are using platform events with Salesforce, let us know. And if you don't know, that's fine too. So, but you're going to give us some ideas of what those platform events look like. And some folks don't have any idea. That's why I put it there. So you don't have any idea about it. That's okay. It doesn't matter. That's why we're here, to be able to say, hey, if you have a Salesforce application and environment, you have access to the platform events. Am I right about that, Kanan? Uh-oh,
Yes.
Did we lose Kanan again?
You don't pay anything. You don't pay anything extra for it. Actually, it's available right out of the box.
So it's not extra. It's in the box, and some folks don't even know it exists. That's fantastic. Love that you're doing that. So let's talk about what is a platform event. You going to show us that?
No. I'm just going to talk through this.
Okay.
Thing, actually. So a platform event is just another way of integrating with other applications that you might have. Let's take an example. You have a new customer acquisition, right? You are going into the account page and then actually saying that a customer became a customer instead of a prospect, right? Let's just take that as an example. In your organization, that happens. And you know that there are several applications that you have that are interested in that. Every time you have a customer, maybe your finance system is going to do a credit check on them so that to know what kind of credit to offer. Maybe your ERP application needs to know them because, in fact, you have to process orders subsequently. So a platform event is nothing but when this happens, Salesforce is saying, hey, a new customer is acquired. And it sends some details about the customer to anybody who is interested. And when I do this, I have no clue what you have. There are applications that you might have today. There are applications that might come up in the future. But I'm just broadcasting the fact that it's a horn that I'm tooting saying, got a new customer. Then you have applications that are sitting in there that are listening to it and are taking action. SAP can do it. Oracle can do it. AWS applications can do it. Azure applications can do it. It's all based on open standards. And most of the things that you're using, standard COTS products, you will actually find that they support some variation of this platform event. And so they can take advantage. So from a Salesforce perspective, this is kind of a low code, I would say, a way by which you can integrate with other applications. So in a very short way, platform event publishes changes whenever something important happens and put some data in there saying, hey, here is what changed. And then you can consume that in several places. You can consume it in flows. You can consume it in Apex, which is the code that we have. You can actually consume it in Lightning Web components. So one of the popular ways of using platform events is you're a customer service rep and you're looking at a set of cases that you need to handle. And while you're at it, the status of a case changes somewhere else. Somebody else went in and actually made some change. Immediately, in fact, your screen can respond to it and then say, I'm going to change the status. Hey, what was in fact open is now a closed case. So those are the kind of things that you can do with a platform event. Very powerful feature. It also makes your architecture very, it's kind of composable architecture. You're only saying, I got the event, and then you leave it to subscribers. Whoever is there today, who might come in tomorrow, they may all, in fact, look at your event and take whatever action they want to take. Something as silly as, I don't want to say silly, there's a group that is responsible for sending physical welcome kits to new customers, right? They can, in fact, get a queue and then they can actually knock off saying, okay, I sent this, I sent this, I sent this. when I developed the new customer acquired event, I had no clue that somebody would have used it for that purpose. But you can use it for that purpose. That's why it's compostable. That's why it's reusable. Make sense, Dave?
Yeah, it does. So if you have it like that, sounds like if somebody's a new employee, they come in and they need to have their computer, they need to have all the rest of the things. So all that can be associated. Oftentimes, I'm thinking of an exact process in two different ways. One, an agency that when a new employee gets hired, all of the welcome components, all of their hardware and all those things, and it may have to integrate with somebody else's system that's responsible, because we have third parties that are doing it as a service model now, and we have also internal agencies that are doing it as part of the hiring process because they own the equipment. It depends on the organization. I can see exactly where being able to integrate those would be a very big benefit for federal agencies. Can't you?
That's a classic use case. Thank you, Dave, for that. Actually, employee provisioning is a great example of, in fact, actually where most likely you have multiple systems that are needed. They need to know about it and they need to take some action about it.
Yep. All right, we got a couple more minutes. Let's get through this next part, because we have inbound, because we're talking about what does inbound mean? Or
so let me, I'm sorry if it all sounds very technical. All that I'm pointing out is if you want from Salesforce, you want to share information with other applications. That's what we mean by outbound. We already saw about platform event and change data capture, and those are basically fire and forget, meaning I just send it to you. I don't care what you do with it. I'm not going to wait for a response. As opposed to, in fact, if you're needing to do some customers, etc., you would do a request and reply, which means you will make a request and then wait for the reply to come in. And then there are tons of options that you have for inbound, which means if you're responsible for other applications and you want to integrate with Salesforce, they're all available here. I don't want to get into too much details, but if you look at Salesforce Connect and Heroku Connect, those are interesting things, particularly data virtualization. If you want data from your SAP system to be available in the dynamic form that we talked about, Salesforce Connect is a way of doing it, or Heroku Connect is a way of doing it. And as you can see that there are several no-code options here. Right in the middle are all high code, heavy code options. And Salesforce Connect and Heroku Connect are licensed. They require additional licenses. You can move on.
Yep. So let's do this real quick. You're going to show us some of the things that are architected.
I will make it really brief, Dave.
Yep. You can go ahead and take over.
What I'm showing you, this is if you're able to see it, this is a diagram that you already are familiar. I showed you this in one of the earlier slides. It talks about, what does Salesforce mean by a well-architected solution. It's a site that's available for everybody, and it's a great initiative. It's a way of sharing best practices with the Salesforce community. If you go in there, you would actually see decision guide. So what we saw today, data integration and building forms, those are two examples, but you can see that there are other things in there that you can actually see. Likewise, if you're a developer or an architect needing to convey, in fact, the solution that you're designing, there are several diagrams that are in there that you can make use of. Here is something that's, in fact, I find it very interesting. I want to know what is happening in the future, and there is a roadmap explorer there. And if you go in there, for example, if I say automation, you can see that there's
You're breaking up again.
Of things that are happening around flows. This is what I meant by saying it's a very active thing, flow. So you can look at what is available today, what is going to become available in beta the next week, next thing, and what's going to be available really early in the winter release. Actually, so the roadmap explorer is also again something that's a great thing for you to look at. Just wanted to point this out. Architect.salesforce.com.
Yep, and in fact, speaking of that, I'll give this to you for everybody to see. Architect, and you're gonna pop that right here. And so we have architect.salesforce.com. It provides decision guides, framework, roadmap. The whole thing is right there, and you guys can dive into that as well. So real quick, we're not gonna wait till tomorrow, are we, Keenan? He's still there? I think, did you freeze up?
Hold on.
I think I think he froze on us. So, so what it says, we are going to continue the conversation with internet connectivity. If you'd like to continue the conversation, that should say, I want to discuss SalesForce in my agency, not AI. That's from your other one. But yeah, and let us know when you want to do that. Should say SalesForce, so the correction's happening on the fly. If you'd like to discuss it, let us know, and we'll make sure that you get. And as I mentioned earlier, there's no obligation to purchase from Divine, but if you want to engage Divine, you can, because you are a GSA contract holder, right, Harold?
That's
and,
right.
And you're 8A certified. And if you need other partners, if you're in procurement and you need to have other partners to be able to fulfill what you need to put it out for solicitation, you can. Any last minute questions before we jump? I want to make sure we get everybody in, and I will just pop it into the chat. Raise your hand if you'd like to engage in some form or fashion, put it in the Q&A, whatever you'd like to do. We'll make sure we get that. And we want to make sure we get everybody out of here in just a minute. So by the end of the day, you will have a briefing presentation, a link to the video, and the ability to pop on a one-on-one meeting. Matt, are you going to be handling these? Matt, sweet. Or you're going to be handling the follow-up for this? Is that you?
We'll do that in conjunction with Kenan.
All right, there you go. So we'll make sure we do that. I think we addressed most of these. If we didn't, make sure you throw that back into the chat or get right together with Kenan about it, because we want to make sure you get that, and we'll have the last, you can have the last chat if we need to. If anybody else needs to have a question, we'll make sure we get you what you need and get you going. So this goes right to you. In fact, I heard that this is your cell phone, Kenan. Is that right?
That is my cell phone, yes.
So if you want to harass him all weekend, you can do it, because that's his cell phone. All right, so we'll leave that open for just a minute. Any other last minute questions? There was a lot of information there. I really appreciate Kenan. Great job in being able to take a look. I know you're passionate about this. If there's anything that's for sure, is that Kenan is passionate about SalesForce and being able to get the most out of it. Isn't that the truth, Harold?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Goes without saying.
absolutely. Fantastic. So there's a bunch of folks that want to chat with you guys afterwards. Is there anything else that before we get you guys out of here? Because we're just about to click over to the 2 o'clock hour. We know that you have other things to do. We appreciate you all joining us here today for this briefing on best practices in connected applications. Appreciate you guys. Any parting comments before we go?
I want to say thank you to everybody for the participation in the polls and the questions.
Absolutely. Love it. And we always love the participation, don't we, guys? Great job again. We'll kill that poll for here, and we'll see you guys on the next run. We'll continue. Whoever wants to continue the conversation, we'll make sure you get it. All right, gents. Great job,
Thank
Kenan.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
See you.
Bye-bye.